Okay, cabinet meeting. We should watch this. This is from today? It is today.
And other things in those plants so that it's one-stop shopping finally. It's ridiculous. You had to go to Mexico, you had to go to Canada. A car went all over the place. It was like, I don't know how that would have worked, but that's the way it sort of ended up. We had a deal, and we have a deal, it's fine, but people took advantage of the deal. They cheated. And when you cheat, the deals are unfortunate. But now what's happening is the numbers are beyond our wildest expectations. Now,
just to be clear, this administration has never presented any evidence that anybody's like cheated a deal or done anything bad like that. There hasn't even actually been any evidence that for the Doge stuff that they found anything. So yeah.
Having to do with cutting, we've done a lot of cutting from people, ideally the people that aren't doing the job. In many cases, people weren't attending jobs. In some cases, in many cases, people didn't exist. They had on the government rolls people that don't even exist. But of the ones that did exist, as you know, many didn't come to work.
I don't believe
many
it
had
has
no
ever
intention
been
of coming
proven,
to work.
but okay.
Many were paid and working someplace else. There were lots of bad scenarios, but they're being weeded out, and I think we're probably ahead of schedule on that. And to me, something that was just terrible is the contracts that we're finding, the fraudulent contracts that we're finding where millions and millions of dollars, and even billions of dollars in some cases, were given out. And well, I think we'll start with that. I'd like to start with Doug Burgum, Secretary of the Interior. He told us about a couple of contracts that we have now found. When he got there, they saw this with Chris and everybody, and they couldn't believe it. Doug, could you just relate what you told us a little while ago?
No, happy to, Mr. President. There was a federal consulting group, which was a group inside of Interior that was managing contracts from many different agencies that flowed through here. One of those contracts was to do surveys of individuals, $830 million for surveys. And so part of the question was, hey, could we actually see the surveys? And then the surveys came back, and a survey was like 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with 10 questions that anyone's child in junior high could have put together, or AI could have done for free. $830 million. So that's one that we've stopped. And that contract was going out after you were inaugurated, sir.
Yeah.
So it was
it's a pure fraud.
Yeah.
It's a fraud. But we've had many fraudulent contracts that were caught by the work that Elon and his people are doing, and working with our people. It's been brought to light that the fraud, not just waste and abuse, the fraud has been incredible. You mentioned one, Madam Secretary.
Well, yes, sir. Okay. Well, let me just add to that, and thank you. We just had a wonderful cabinet meeting, all aligned on certainly the effort to realign the government. But even at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, we've canceled a $300,000 contract educating on food justice for queer and transgender farmers in San Francisco.
Why you even mention $300,000? Bro, what?
A similar contract we canceled in New York, again, educating transgender and queer farmers on food justice and food equality. I'm not even sure what that means, but...
You're not sure what it means? Why would you cancel it if you don't even know what it means? Hello? What if it was a good contract, like how to discriminate against gay people using food? You guys would love that one. Maybe there are certain types of foods that turn people trans, okay? And now you can get rid of... Maybe that's what that was about. Like, wait, why would you say I don't even know what that is, but I canceled it? Jesus Christ. Also, wait, hold on. Is this guy right? 30 seconds.
Trump was right about Ukraine, and now the media is quietly admitting it.
What?
Look, you don't have to like Trump. You don't have to support Putin, but you may want to pay attention for a moment because something massive just shifted. The Hill, one of the biggest political outlets in D.C., just dropped an article called, sadly, Trump is right on Ukraine. That headline alone is enough to make half the media scramble for damage control.
Is the headline just that Ukraine has lost territory and it's going to be really hard to get it back? Because if so, that's not like a Trump insight, but...
What's inside that article is even more powerful.
Okay.
They admit that the war in Ukraine wasn't unprovoked, that it was Ukrainian right-wing militants who ignited the conflict back in 2014.
That's a Russian talking point. That's bullshit, but okay.
Long before Russia took Crimea, that Zelensky, far from being a hero of peace, rejected multiple peace agreements, pushed for NATO military involvement, and amped up aggression in the Donbass region. He banned opposition parties, shut down the media outlets, and then begged for more weapons to defend democracy. In the West,
shut down
they didn't
media
just let
outlets.
it happen. They funded it. They armed it. And they sold you a one-sided story on every major network, day and night, for years. They told you this war started in 2022, that Russia attacked unprovoked, that Zelensky was the last man standing between freedom and tyranny. That was a script. And if you questioned it, you were labeled a traitor, a Putin puppet, or even worse. But now, even the Hill is admitting it's not that simple. And here's what...
Damn, this Hill article is straight Russian slop. Who wrote this? What the fuck? By Alan J. Cooperman, opinion contributor. It's an op-ed. I'm just reading this article. Jesus.
But they're not saying out loud. Trump said all this years ago. He said NATO expansion was reckless. He said West was playing games in Ukraine. He said we were headed for a war we didn't need. And now the same media that mocked him is quietly backpedaling. So why now? Because the narrative is cracking, because independent journalists, alternative media, and everyday people like us kept pushing for the truth.
Who's cracking because of an op-ed? You're free to write whatever you want, but...
Because mainstream media knows people are waking up. The same people who lied to us in Iraq and Afghanistan have been lying about Ukraine.
Okay, I'm good on this.
But apparently the last administration wanted to put our taxpayer dollars towards that. We canceled a $600,000 contract out of Louisiana that was studying the menstrual cycles of transgender men, a $600,000 contract. We canceled another contract out of a university in the middle of the country that focused on getting more diversity, equity, and inclusion into our pest management industry. Again, these are nonsensical. It makes zero sense to use taxpayer dollars to fund these. I know these are just a few examples of the hundreds and hundreds that we have found.
So none of those were fraudulent. It sounds like you just don't like them. Which, assuming they're within the laws of Congress and how you're allowed to allocate money, you're probably within your rights to get rid of them if you don't like them. I don't think anybody's denying that, but none of this is fraud. And it sounded like the scale of these were very small. Remember, people tend to lead with their strongest examples. So if you're out here talking about a $500,000 contract, it sounds like you didn't find much at all in terms of cuts to be made, but okay.
The clear case of fraud was with the Small Business Administration, where they were handing out loans, $330 million worth of loans to people under the age of 11.
I already had such a epic fucking hat on. Trump was right about everything. Such an epic fucking hat. It's such an epic hat.
It was with the Small Business Administration, where they were handing out loans, $330 million worth of loans to people under the age of 11. I think the youngest, Kelly, was a 9-month-old who got a $100,000 loan. It's a very precocious baby we're talking about here.
So I think the issue, one, you're never bringing up any examples specifically, right? Name it, name and shame. If you're talking about like fraud, this sounds like actual fraud, unless he's just talking about Social Security survivors benefits, where you are allowed to, I think when you die, if you would earn some Social Security, they could be passed on to survivors or people with disabilities or whatever. Like there are ways that this kind of, which is actually probably what he's talking about. But if it was actual fraud or something, why not name it? Like who? Is somebody being charged with this? Or what? Why always anonymous names? Like, really?
Well, we're tackling the fraud, waste, and abuse in the agency. We've seen hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud go unprosecuted, so we're taking that on. We have a zero tolerance policy for fraud. And
hundreds of billions of dollars? Oh, okay. Can you give some examples that aren't like a $400,000 contract for DEI then?
We continue to crack down on it and make sure people are held accountable.
Oh, nothing? Oh, okay.
We found far too much of it.
Okay.
It's a pure fraud. We like to use the word.
Found too much of it. Hasn't given a single example of fraud yet. Not a single example of fraud yet, but okay. In the whole administration, not just his meeting, the whole administration. Here's something that I'm finding out that's actually really surprising to me is I'm starting to wonder, is our government actually like way more fucking efficient at finding this shit than I would have originally assumed? Like if you would have asked me, if somebody were to go in hardcore digging for fraud, you're probably going to find quite a bit, right? It's like, yeah, I imagine you probably find some pretty easily. Maybe it's actually way more fucking efficient than I ever would have assumed, like as a baseline, just as a heuristic, and I never give it credit for. Because it seems like I haven't found any. Not even one example yet. So, what the fuck?
It's waste and abuse because they sort of sound good, but many of these things are pure fraud. Now, there was a contract that you've heard about where Stacey Abrams got $2 billion just before we took over, and it was a rush to get her the money, and that was environmental, and nobody knows what she was doing. But $2 billion. If you got
what was the contract for? Nobody knows what she was doing. What was the contract for?
But this was $2 billion was given.
$2 billion?
Talk about that, and the other one that was even worse.
EPA has now canceled over $22 billion worth of contracts. $2 billion going to this NGO that Stacey Abrams was tied to. They received only $100 in 2023, and then the Biden administration gave them $2 billion.
To do what? What is it?
The Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund saw his former employer get $5 billion. So $20 billion went to just 8 NGOs, and they're all pass-throughs. And then they were giving it to other entities, many of them were pass-throughs. And what you have is all these extra middlemen, they're taking their cut, and the taxpayer ends up getting screwed. They're losing out on all this hard-earned money. They can't afford to have the federal government waste. The partnership with Doge and Elon Musk has been incredible at EPA. Their team is very talented. We wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And of course, this mandate from President Trump to make sure that we identify every last penny, whether we're saving $50,000, $5 million, or $22 billion. We will not rest until every last penny is saved. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to do this for the American public.
Great job. So we have
nothing.
A lot of that.
Okay.
We're getting down to a point we think probably over the next 2 or 3 months we'll be pretty much satisfied with the people that are working hard and want to be members of the administration and our country, really. And they're doing a lot of good people. We have a lot of great people. We want to keep the good ones, and we want to get rid of the ones that don't exist, and we want to get rid of the ones that do exist but don't work. And we have quite a few of them. Would anybody else like to say something before we take some questions from the press, please? Doug Collins.
Yeah, Mr. President, I think one thing that you've always told me is take care of our veterans, and that's what we're doing at the VA. And one of the things is you also have to know who your boys are. You have to know the very fact of who you are. We're 470,000 roughly when we started this, larger than the active duty Army.
Wait, real quick. Do you drive faster on concrete or just walk faster on concrete in Victoria?
You think about that in the perspective. But however, this is an interesting point. When I first got there and we started looking at this, how you take care of people, we didn't have an HR system that could actually give us a rundown on who actually was working where. That we've had to work with that, working with our VA employees who are those liaisons. We've been able to put together an organizational chart which we can start looking at that. But the interesting part about it is about taking care of veterans. And what you've told me to do is how do we get the people in the right places. And I think when we look at this, GAO has told us we were high risk for years. The previous administration put literally tens of billions of dollars and tens of thousands of employees over the last 4 years, and we saw our statistics basically stay the same or go down. Backlogs went up. Maybe the question is not money and employees anymore. Maybe it's the organization and how we effectively deliver for the American people. And that's what we're going to do.
Wow.
And one thing I want to add to it, it is not necessarily a very popular thing to do. You're talking about employment, you're talking about people and the lives of people. And yet, I think the American public understands we're trying to save our country and make our country great again. I mean, you could say it, but we're trying to save our country from this extraordinary thing that was happening. What they were doing to our country was just a horrible thing.
But we can't find any evidence of it anywhere?
I have no idea how it plays out in the public.
Okay.
I guess you see poll numbers that are very good numbers, but I don't know what that means long term. But it's something that has to be done. If we don't do it, we're not going to have much of a country left, so we have to do it. So we're doing things that I think a lot of presidents wouldn't be inclined to do, but we're doing it to really, I don't want to use cliche. I don't want to say we're doing it to make America great again because I say that on the campaign trail, but there's really no other words that could express it better than that.
Than to make America great again.
Help our country, and our country was riddled with fat, like no country probably anywhere in the world, and we're getting rid of the fat. And at the same time, we're going to be bringing in millions of very good, high-paying jobs. And we're going to be taking in a lot of money. Our country's going to be very strong. We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. We were taken advantage of like nobody's ever seen. And
sorry, hold on. Because somebody in chat's trying to answer this. I see somebody asked this. Destiny, they keep claiming children and dead people are receiving Social Security benefits. Can you explain those? Okay, so for the old dead people, there is a thing called the DMF, I think, the Death Master File that the Social Security maintains externally for other organizations to interface with as a benefit to other organizations. Some of these are part of the federal government. Some of these are private companies to check to see if people are dead. That Death Master File is updated with information that the Social Security Administration has, but the SSA does not use the DMF to pay people. The Social Security Administration has its own internal files and database that it uses to determine whether or not somebody's eligible for payments or not. So just because they haven't updated the DMF, and there were a variety of reasons why the DMF hasn't been updated insofar as being able to figure out like cause of death or when somebody died, that would be good enough to put on that DMF. Their internal systems don't necessarily reflect who they're paying. The internal systems are not the same as that external DMF. And there's no evidence that the internal systems are paying out thousands and thousands of people Social Security or tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that don't have it. That's why they haven't been able to give a single example of somebody, despite the fact that they're showing all these numbers. And going by the DMF is in and of itself a mistake. And the Inspector General already identified DMF issues, and the SSA was trying to figure out like how they could update the DMF better. This is already all being talked about, and there's a public OIG report. There's multiple of them where they're working on this way before DOGE showed up. But that report, again, it doesn't show that there's like people getting paid that aren't supposed to be getting paid, just that the SSA isn't able to update that DMF for a variety of reasons and to see if there's any way that they can.
You saw what happened today with Venezuela. We did something with Venezuela, which is long in the making, and it's very substantial. And we'll be announcing cars very shortly, and we already announced steel, as you know, and aluminum. We'll be announcing pharmaceuticals at some point in the not too distant, because we have to have pharmaceuticals. We don't make pharmaceuticals anymore in our country. And if we have problems like wars or anything else, we need steel, we need pharmaceuticals, we need aluminum, we need a lot of these things that we sort of don't make anymore, and yet we're equipped to do it all. So we'll be announcing some of these things in the very near future, not the long future, the very near future. And it'll bring in billions of dollars, billions and billions, and it'll bring in, maybe more importantly, jobs. It'll protect the jobs we have. And it's going to be really quite amazing. Chris, did you have something to say?
Yes, Mr. President.
Is it a similar claim to the dead voters thing? Sometimes it was, yeah. I don't know if there was any evidence of dead people voting. Sometimes there'd be dead people on voter rolls because the voter roll or whatever hadn't been updated from one reason or another. But that doesn't mean they voted. It just means they were still registered to vote. Yeah.
I want to say energy is the infrastructure that makes our country run and drives our national security. The Biden administration grew my department, the Department of Energy, by 20%, and expenditure much more than that, all in an effort to reduce the production of energy in the United States and to make energy more expensive. We are stewards of the American taxpayer dollars, right? That's the job of everyone around this table, led by you. We want to reverse that trajectory and care about every dollar an American taxpayer gives us, and are we using it for the benefit of Americans? Let me tell you one thing, huge growth in expenditures, huge growth in employee count. Puerto Rico, an American territory, had its electricity grid destroyed. They had billions of dollars in the Department of Energy to help Puerto Rico, yet they didn't spend that money because that money would have meant more energy, more jobs, more prosperity in Puerto Rico. They wanted to have them as a poster child of wind and solar. This island should run on wind and solar. That just doesn't work. But they cared about politics more than the American people, and they didn't treat the dollars like they were their dollars. This table, the team you have assembled, we're treating the American dollars like they're our dollars.
Wow. Thank you. We're doing a great job on energy, by the way. We have things happening with energy that will knock your socks off. A really amazing job. Howard, do you want to say a couple of words?
Well, what is so exciting is April 2nd is just around the corner, and that's American Liberation Day. That's the day when the rest of the world starts to treat
American Liberation Day.
America with respect, and your leadership, understanding how the rest of the world treats us and what balance and what fair trade finally is going to be, is going to take care of America. It's going to launch the External Revenue Service to start to build.
They're really doing that? The External Revenue Service? They're really launching that? That's really happening?
The power and prestige of America back, and I'm honored to be helping you on that course.
It's an interesting term, right? The External Revenue Service. We're going to take in a lot of money from the outside, and that's going to keep our taxes low, and I think getting a lot lower. It's going to be a lot of money on that. Well, the external will take care of the internal to a large extent, so I think it's going to be a beautiful transformation. Linda, you might say a couple of words. You've done so amazing. It's a 50% cut, and more importantly, we want to bring education into the states. We're at the bottom of the pack, but we're the most expensive per pupil, and we want to bring education back.
Why Republicans allowed to exist is pretty much just opposition to Dems and Dem policies. And when Dems campaigning point out how insane Trump is, they're the deranged ones. Yeah, I don't know. I saw something super fucking disgusting on my subreddit. It was a red sign about Trump building some shit or some infrastructure is getting built because of Trump. But if you read the bottom of the sign, it literally says because of the Infrastructure Act that Biden had passed. I was like, are you serious? Why are you guys posting so much in here? What the fuck? I should just save these posts. That's what I should be doing. Somebody will post it in my chat before I have to scroll and find it. Oh, this is a news article. Not the same picture I saw, but Seattle rail yard modernization. President Donald J. Trump rebuilding America's infrastructure, and then funded by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Really makes you think.
To the states where they can teach the students lovingly with their parents and with the boards and everything else, and they'll be every bit as good as these other countries. These states, these individual states will do it.
Wait, hold on. Wow, hi, what's up? Arguing with you. Hello, you're in. I'm talking to you. This isn't the stream, this is real life. Okay. He'll be here eventually. He talked in chat to tell me to drag him in, so I don't know why he's not talking now, but we'll see.
Phenomenal job. Want to say something?
Yes, sir. And if we think about education, if we don't...
I'm sorry, I've been talking to myself in my room this whole time.
Okay, hi, what's up?
Hey, I write the executive order report in the weekly newsletter, Pragmatic Papers.
Okay, what's
up?
And
I heard you talking about you called for the cuckoldry of a sitting federal judge over his actions in the Venezuelan trial.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying that he should be filing for contempt and things like that. And I was just going to talk to you about that and see if you understand what you're asking him to do. And things. Okay. Do you understand the difference between civil and criminal contempt?
Is it just contempt in a civil versus a criminal case, or what is it? What's the difference? No, I don't.
Okay, so what's happening is with civil and criminal contempt, you can have it in either civil or criminal cases.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very vague area, and it has a really weird history in the law. But essentially, it comes down to civil contempt is used to compel actions of a party, and criminal contempt is used to punish actions of the party.
Okay.
Okay. And then with criminal contempt, since it is criminal, the people that are being found in contempt can request a jury trial, which then would require a prosecutor and a representative of the government to show up and try the case. So, for obvious reasons, the judge is not really wanting to find the Department of Justice attorney in criminal contempt, because then the Department of Justice then would be the ones to litigate the trial against that attorney, and they're not going to do that to their own people.
Okay.
Then on the other side, civil contempt, okay, that can come in usually two forms. One, it can be you can also imprison them, and you technically don't need to do a jury trial for that. They can just choose to imprison you. However, in the federal court system, if they choose to do that, they have to ask the U.S. Marshal to escort you to jail.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
The U.S. Marshals fall under the executive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to the fines. He could fine them, all right? And you can be pretty brutal with your fines as a judge. There's sometimes they'll fine them, let's say $1,000 a day that you don't follow this order or this TRO, and then it doubles each day.
Okay. But is this
really
fine? Is this fine going to be placed on the individuals, or will it just be placed on the government?
It can be either. They can choose to sanction a party or a party's attorney. Okay. And so let's say, and so a lot of people are calling.
In this case, isn't the party and the party's attorney, aren't they both the government?
No, when I say the party's attorney, I mean as an individual attorney, as a practicing lawyer. So because they're saying you have an ethical duty and a duty as a licensed professional to act in a certain way in court, and regardless of who else is here and what the subject matter is, you are not acting in a proper way, and so you are allowed to be sanctioned.
Okay, gotcha.
Now this power. Yeah, so this power of contempt has been fought back and forth between the judiciary and the legislature. Legislature wants it to come from them. Courts have repeatedly said no, it's stemming directly from the judiciary, but it can be limited by the legislature. So what that means is that let's say they lay this fine down on this attorney personally. Well, that attorney's probably not going to pay it, and even if the government was going to cover it, it would become so expensive to do so, there would be no point to do it. And so let's say they do $1,000 a day, doubling every day, goes for a month, that's over $1 trillion. Well, then what happens is, at that point, is that that contempt, that civil contempt, it's not really compelling anything, is it? Right? Because they're not complying with it. And now the money is so great that you're basically punishing this person, because now they're having to pay you, the GDP of a small to medium-sized nation.
Okay.
And so courts in the past have said, okay, well, once a contempt fine reaches a certain point, it seems like you're just trying to avoid the jury process. So higher courts can go, oh, this court's just using civil contempt to avoid the jury process for criminal contempt because they want to punish this attorney. And so right now, it seems like any route that this judge goes down with contempt really is just going to not get enforced and have no real meaning. That's not the only. There's still one, maybe two other things you could do, which is again attacking the attorneys directly. So
is it not worth it? Let's say that we do the criminal route, and I understand all of the complexities there. That we've even asked the question: is it possible to convict like a sitting president? And I think some extension of that is going to be like, will any executive branch go after itself or whatever? Is it not worth pushing the issue onto them to force them to at least confront the issue? Like, well, here's a criminal contempt thing. Is the DOJ going to do anything about it? Or go ahead.
I mean, well, to be clear, the question isn't if any executive would any Republican executive would, because a Democratic administration would certainly do it, almost certainly do it. But we're now talking about virtue signaling and symbology, right? This is just another. This would be, wow, we can add this to the list of things that the Trump administration did that falls into this category that just floods everybody's vision all the time. And the legal field is abhorred by a lot of what's going on in that case. And maybe it's a flashpoint, but I think and I hate defending Bozeman on this because I did not make this hedge earlier. I do think that he should be doing more, just maybe not exactly the same way you say, or to, I don't know if I want his wife to be cuckolded for not doing it, but I think if he was to do that, or let's say, like when they first came in and said, you know what, Judge, we don't think we did it after your TRO, and he said, well, fucking tell me, and they go, no, we're not going to do that. If he did it right there, as stupid as it sounds, there's enough wiggle room there that I think the judge is worried that people are going to just see him as the activist judge they're already labeling him as. And
sure, yeah, because I was going to say a big issue that I'm having with these people saying that like we're trying to conduct ourselves in the most restrained way possible is to like ostensibly like restore faith in the judiciary, but like nobody trusts the Supreme Court. Like that doesn't seem like it's happened anywhere. So I don't know who we're doing this for. Like it seems like at the end of the day, then there's just going to be nothing done ever, and now I guess you just never have to follow any rulings ever. Like what options are left? Like what can they do?
So, well, here, one second. Let me finish up what I was saying. What I'd say is that the reason he's doing those hearings, and he's repeatedly, now it's 10 a.m. instead of 12 a.m. Whatever. Yeah. The reason he's doing that is because he's trying to get them to say something on the record that is just so clearly a violation. I've not read all the transcripts, but from the ones that I've read and from what I've heard, the Trump lawyers are actually being pretty smart in just kind of really not quite saying contemptible things. Yeah, I agree with you that if I said that in court, I would be found in contempt. But one of the first things that got fed to me in federal court by a federal judge was be chicken shit, be sanctioned. Federal court's the big leagues and they don't play around. But, and I know it doesn't feel that way watching this, in this case, I think what the judge is doing is trying to get them to say something that is so egregious and obviously contemptible that when he does it, it's very hard to impugn his character for doing so.
I guess, but the problem is that
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Are we expecting them to call him like a racial slur? Because I feel like when you look at like some of these guys are showing up and they're just like not even proffering real arguments. They're not even like responding to what's being said directly. Or in the case of this one in particular, the guy literally he said that. Who was it that came in? It was a guy that was working for ICE or something, said that he'd heard something that somebody in the cabinet had said they were maybe considering. And it's like, what? This isn't even like really anything. Like that's good enough? They can just do that all day and the judge is going to be like, okay, well, if you heard somebody say something about this, well, you actually have to bring that person down here to say it, LOL. Like everybody knows is retarded shit. Like I'm pretty sure he himself knows is retarded shit. That's why his opinions have been so aggressive. But like, what are we waiting for them to do theoretically? What could they even do theoretically?
I'm not going to go. I've already defended him more than I want to, if I'm being honest. But and I know what you're saying. But if him saying, I think you read this on stream where he goes, I want someone to come down here and say it on the record. I want someone to say this thing on the record because those attorneys are, like you said, they're giving shitty arguments. But theoretically, there could be some evidence or there could be something that explains their reasoning. And I think the judge, out of his own self-protection to some degree, and also just to maybe protect this case once it gets appealed, that he doesn't give him the room here that it's so obvious that he was not abusing his direct discretion.
I guess I just don't like when you say there could be something or whatever, like it's court. Like it doesn't matter what there could be, it matters what you enter into the record. If they're not bringing anything, then I imagine you treat it as though there's nothing, right? And we're talking about also, these are TROs. Like how are we appealing TROs or preparing TROs to survive appeal? Like it just feels so wacky and stupid to me. And this isn't even the first one, right? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
If it becomes criminal, here's the deal. If it's civil contempt, you're right. We're not appealing this. That's an injunction. That's not a final order. Interlocutory. It's interlocutory. It's not a final order, so it's not directly appealable. But the minute it becomes criminal, then now you open the door to a direct appeal. And what this judge, I would bet, does not want is for this case to be slowed down any more than it already is, even though he is slowing it down himself, with an appeal when we're talking about people that might be in some kind of work camp in a foreign country that we're trying to get back. So I'm not, again, I feel bad defending him.
I understand. I understand what you're doing for the Stillman, but like, just personally, as a legal retard, I don't understand I don't know what a TRO is for. I thought it was for parts where the likelihood of the success and the merits was so great, and the chance of irreparable harm being done to a plaintiff that a TRO is granted. That's not what a TRO is. If you can appeal it and delay it and stall it and appeal it and then go to the next court and do that, like that, clearly the TRO is for something else at that point. Then I don't know if it's like jerk material or you just wipe your ass with it. Like, because what the fuck? Explain to me, what the fuck is the point of a TRO if you can endlessly appeal them and delay them for so long? Like, is the irreparable harm not already suffered by the people that have been literally shipped out of the fucking country? Like, what the fuck?
Well, you're right, and the irreparable harm already has been done to those people. And I think your frustration in the fact that we're just ignoring the judicial system is appropriate. But let's also recognize that ignoring the judicial system is not a binary thing. It appears to be, to some degree, a gradient. And if this judge forces the issue, that might make Trump go, you know what, fuck this, fuck these courts, and do it on the back of, look at these fucking insane judges who over this small thing are making these insane asks, right? And
I guess here's my issue is always
appreciate.
My issue is we always say this, like, he might do this, he might do that, but like they're doing it. It feels like, I don't want to overuse or overplay the appeasement argument, but it feels like that. Like some guy is coming to your front door and he said, hey, can you let me in? I'm going to come and murder your child. And you're like, okay. And then you open the door and you're like, wait. When he comes in, like, make sure that we like offer him a cup of coffee. We don't want to upset him because he might kill our kid. And the guy's like, thank you for the coffee. I'm going to go upstairs and murder your child. And you're like, wait. The stairs are slippery. Let me give you some shoes. I don't want to upset you because you might murder my kid. Like all the way, like you're just helping him get to his end point. Like nobody at any point is expecting the administration to go, okay, well, you know, the courts and everybody have been chill and cool. We respect rule of law now. Like it's inevitably heading towards that destination. It just seems like everybody wants to pass the buck and wait for somebody else to deal with it.
I agree with almost all of that. And I'm going to stop steel manning him because it's not going anywhere and I don't want to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. But I will move on to what you asked earlier, which was what can he do? And I mentioned that going after these attorneys personally is something he can do, and it is actually the main reason I wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
There is, as an attorney, I'm a member of various bars. Okay, a lot of people think that once you're an attorney, you're just barred and that's it. There are state bars and there are federal bars. There's also bars for specific areas of law. I won't get into that. Mm-hmm. But let's say that you wanted to go practice federal law in New York. Mm-hmm. If you have a state bar, if you're barred in any state, you can go to New York federal court. And you'll go to one of the districts and say, okay, I want to practice here. I want to enter the bar of this district. So if I'm barred in the Western District of New York, I can practice there, but not the Southern District of New York. Or I can appear in court, I should say.
Okay.
Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because now what can happen is a lot of these TROs and a lot of these government actions are being attacked and appealed in the DC circuit. Very active. And what these judges can do is say, I'm putting this civil contempt on you. And they might even make it something small where it really doesn't turn into anything. And then turn around and that judge can go to the bar of the DC circuit and file a grievance against that attorney.
Yeah, but
it sounds like pussy shit.
It is pussy shit, though.
1 second.
Okay.
No, 1 second, please. What then happens is that attorney can get disbarred from the DC circuit.
Okay, when you get to the stuff that's not pussy shit, though. So like Sidney Powell, Giuliani, all these people are already like facing or have been disbarred. Like Trump can find in his meat grinder of people who want to step up and sacrifice their legal careers. Like he can do it. Like at the end of the day, if the thing we get out of this is, we disbarred like 3 attorneys.
You're not talking about, sorry.
Or I'm just saying that, like, let's say at the end of the day that we get there, we disbar like 4 or 5 attorneys. Yeah, like who cares?
No, I'm talking about disbarring any attorney that walks in there. I'm saying the judiciary can do something like that. And I know it sounds like, who cares, whatever, but you are, I would say then at that point, if you're still saying who cares to that, then the issue is not the judiciary. The issue is the legislature. Because we're saying, when you see a crisis in the Constitution, the solution is not, well, which one of these two people is going to fight it out, which of the two branches are going to fight it out and win. It's how does the third branch break the tie? And right now, the legislature is not going to do that.
Well, because the legislature has spoken. Now the question is up to the judiciary to determine, is the Trump administration breaking the law or not? The Emergency Aliens Act or whatever, that's the judiciary, or I'm sorry, that's the legislature. That's a law passed by the legislature. The executive is now acting on it. And now the question is does the executive have the right to do that? And that's what we're relying on the courts to determine for us, no?
I respectfully disagree. Okay. I don't think that's what we're doing right now. I think we know what it is. Right now, he does and is doing that. The judiciary can give their opinion, and that's an opinion. But right now, he's not respecting it. So we can't rely on the judiciary to tell us that, oh, he can't do this. We need to rely on the legislature to correct the action. And that is not happening. That's where the failure is coming from. I can understand the frustration of the judiciary.
Wait. How is the legislature, how do they correct the action? They could theoretically do we think that he's within his rights?
With impeachment.
But I don't know.
That's what a constitutional crisis is. I know this sounds like bullshit, but like and you've said it. That's the system we have of impeachment, and if not impeachment, there's an alternative that I'm not going to say on stream.
Okay, the alternative, sure, but the legislature is not going to do that. But that's not on the legislature. I'm just saying that, like the impeachment thing for right now, at least the Republicans are presenting it as though the president can legitimately do the thing that he's doing, and he hasn't actually broken the law. Right? Nobody's saying that he's broke the law yet because the judges are all, I don't know, maybe not. They haven't issued a thing actually saying it. Right?
What?
Like, has he even violated?
You're presenting this in a way that you know is not correct. The judges are not going to issue something that says they broke the law. I'm sorry for being pedantic here. We're talking about TROs and we're talking about pretrial shit. Yes. There's literally no way for them to say, actually, right? There's not even an MSJ on file. There's nothing there that would give him that access to do that.
I agree, but they're not even enforcing their TROs.
TRO is. But you're saying they should do well then let's run it down.
Mm-hmm.
What they can't use criminal contempt, and if they do civil contempt, then the Trump administration goes, haha, we don't care, we don't want to do it, and look how crazy they are, and they don't do it. So then does Bozeman just pull out a 45 and dome the DOJ lawyer till
at the very least, the civil contempt is something. Okay, you've got some mounting fees, I guess. At least it's something to report on. Why? I mean, they could do the criminal contempt and also just push it on to Pam and say, well, she's ignoring it. What do you want us to do? No.
And if you're okay with that, then that's fine. Then, like if you saw that and you said, okay, Judicial can't do anything, but at least you're doing this. Now we're gonna,
well, as opposed to right now, neither of us can honestly say that he's violated a TRO, right? Not really. They're still so we can't even say that.
I certainly would make that statement. No, but it's kind of we're kind of at a point here where people are we're heading towards a constitutional crisis. It's happened. We're there. We're already in it.
Yeah.
Like this is it's like you're saying like, okay, well, again, you get these two forces that are, quote unquote co-equal, and they can't technically sort it out, except that one of them, has the military, all law enforcement and things like that. So we do know who's going to win it. The idea that somehow the other side, who has no real tangible powers to resolve it, and I hear you, I'll concede that if we're okay with a token or a symbolic contempt order, then yeah, I'm with you on that one. I just wanted to just come in here and say, hey, look, there are things that they can do. And in fact, real quick, on the disbarment thing, whether you say, oh, who cares, 4 or 5 people, it's legitimately not it is less ridiculous for me to say that the judges in the DC Circuit could just continue to disbar to grievance against these lawyers until they are disbarred. That is less ridiculous than a successful civil or criminal contempt claim actually changing the actions of the administration. And last thing on this thing that around the department, the reason why I think is effective is because the Trump administration has basically already admitted that it would be. Because right now in the DC Circuit, there is coming up next month, there's an election for the president of the DC bar. Okay. And the Trump administration is working as hard as it fucking can to get the brother, I believe it's the brother of Pam Bondi, elected to that position. Because what they're going to do is the exact opposite of what I just said. And they're going to come in and say, hey, because look at the EO that came out where they said, hey, Pam Bondi, go back and look at the last 8 years of all these attorneys' actions. And if they're not good, we're going to just, report to the full extent of the law. Well, if her brother is now the president of the fucking bar and she reports him as the head of the DOJ, well, you know what? He's just going to remove all of the anti-Trump lawyers. So now every person that walks into the DC bar is just pro-Trump as fuck.
Yeah, which is what they've already been in the process of doing this, right? Sure.
Well,
I would argue with the Eric Adams thing, where they said that they were gonna fire all 21 of the integrity lawyers or whatever.
No, you're not understanding.
What?
No. I'm not talking about DOJ lawyers. I'm talking about all lawyers. I'm saying that anybody that walks into a DC Circuit courtroom is going to have some kind of evidence that they support Trump in order to remain barred in DC.
Sure. I'm just saying that
that removes a lot of people's ability to challenge it.
Yeah, installing loyalists as much as they can up and down the government. This might be a different way of doing it, but it's a thing they're already trying to do. I agree with that. But
you're limiting it to just the government. I'm saying non-government attorneys barred in DC will have to be loyal to Trump to practice in DC.
Sure.
If Pam Bondi's,
we've already sure. I understand. I'm not limiting just that.
Right.
Like Eli Quay or whatever the fuck, right? These law firms that are being targeted by EOs.
Sure.
These are not government lawyers. They're trying to compel private lawyers even in order. Right now, they've had to authorize like $40 million of pro bono. I understand what you're saying though. Yeah. No. I'm sorry. You were right. You're talking about lawyers that just have to get barred, not just employees of the government. But yeah, it's a continuation of the path of stuff they're doing. But also, yes, these would be non-government lawyers. I understand that. Do you do any like international law stuff or whatever?
I don't professionally do it. I studied a good amount about the USMCA and NAFTA when I was in law school, so I have a pretty good understanding of how those are formed, how they're executed, and like why they exist.
Okay, sure. I'm talking more like
outside of that,
like laws of like armed conflict related stuff. But one of the arguments that people make when it comes to like international law, just real quick, people make these arguments like, oh, law doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter what the UN says or blah, blah, blah. But it does. It matters because when the negotiations start, if you've been breaking these laws or you've been doing something bad, people can point to it and go, well, hold on. When I negotiate this thing, I'm not going to let you have this or that because, look, you're already in violation of this. You're already in violation of that. It's not so much that you're hoping for a favorable ruling from the ICJ or the ICC or something because it allows you to just magically win. It's something to build off of. And I feel like that's the important thing for every role of government, rebuking the Trump stuff as much as possible rather than saying like, well, you know, our shit isn't going to do anything and their shit won't really do much. Because if everybody thinks that at the end of the day, then you truly do walk out with nothing. But if there's like a civil contempt thing that's building, a criminal contempt thing that's not being enforced, TROs that are now in open violation, like when you get all these things, I think that when you go to do let's say it is impeachment that you're saying is the necessary step to remove him, to be able to walk in and say, this president is in violation of our courts, the DOJ refuses to enact on or to allow the U.S. Marshals to serve these warrants, whatever. I feel like these things all help. They all like help you build your case rather than allowing them to easily hand wave everything is kind of my feeling. I agree that it doesn't fix anything outright, but helps you build your case. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think, you know, I was being very, very respectful and not mocking you and saying, yeah, what about some felony convictions? Okay. Because like, and I'm not saying we shouldn't keep building the case, but like the case is there. It is there. And like you said, they elected him and all that stuff. At this point, to me, I think that I think I agree with you. We should be getting this, you know, not a court record, but a record of Trump's and his administration's actions such that we can hope that there is someday that we're going to hold him accountable, because that's kind of what it feels like you're talking about is like, oh, there's this African warlord and he's doing these crimes. None of us are going to stop him, but we're going to record him. And maybe someday someone will catch him and we'll get to bring him to this court and then we'll get him. And I respect that position, but it also is kind of I don't see a huge difference in what you are talking about versus what you perceive as the inaction of this court, in the sense that it's like, I don't see the bridge between making that record and then at some point in the future holding him accountable.
I think if the accountability is to ever happen, all these small bridges have to be crossed. Like if it was the case that Alvin Bragg or Letitia James, that New York State was like, well, are we really going to charge Trump? Nobody's going to hold him accountable. Like, fuck this. Then they don't do it. Or if some guy decides, you know, are we going to do this investigation? Who cares, right? We have convictions in New York State for Donald Trump. I think that's meaningful. It's not enough, obviously, but I think it's meaningful that he was convicted in front of a jury on all of those counts. If it would have been for Mar-a-Lago or for the January 6th case, I think those would have been meaningful as well. Is it everything? No. I think that, and I've told people this a million times, courts aren't supposed to fix problems. They're supposed to rule on problems afterward, or they're not supposed to prevent problems. They're supposed to issue like judgments. It's a judge, right? So, I mean, I'm not looking for the courts to save us. They can't. They're not supposed to. It's not their job. But at the very least, getting all the different parties together to say, hey, this is wrong, and it's not just CNN, it's our federal courts, and it's these people, and it's these people, and it's these people. It just helps you build the case, I guess. Not for the bulk of MAGA, but remember, you only have to convince like 5% of people in a party is not viable, right? Or you only have to convince so many people in Congress, and you know you get them on your side. You were not looking to sway even a plurality of the Republican Party, like some faction inside, but just like enough people to show, like, look at these things; these are really bad. I don't know. Otherwise, it's just like, why should anybody do any job for anything ever? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think it's fair, and honestly, I mean, you know, I think I've intentionally kind of interpreted your arguments just to kind of be more argumentative, but And if really what we're doing here is saying, like, we're holding this judge accountable to not shirk his duty, and yeah, you know what, maybe doing the civil contempt and criminal contempt is hard and won't result in the things we want, but it is still his job to do it. I think that's a totally fair thing to say, especially in, I'm certainly way less doomer than a lot of people. I think there are paths to a better future, even with the administration in power as it is now, and having that record would be important. I think one other thing, though, in this that we're looking at right now that I haven't seen a ton of people talk about is I wonder how much judges in court cases like this are trying as hard as they can not to kind of fast track an appealable order that then just busts open the administration's powers, right? Like whenever we look at the CR that just went through, where everybody was so quick to talk about impoundment, and then that CR hit, and it's like, well, fuck, okay, I guess not, right? Because that issue got forced, and boom, now he's got it. And I'm wondering if a judge in this situation is going, well, if it goes to the Supreme Court now, he feels like they're just going to grant Trump the powers.
I mean, you have to.
But maybe there's some path, right?
I understand what you're saying, but I would disagree, because at that point, like, the Supreme Court justices are not stupid. If they're going to rule one way or not, they know how they're going to rule on that case. And it's not going to be, it would be a mistake to think if it did happen that it was because of this. It's not going to be because a case just wasn't strong enough that the Supreme Court accidentally gives away the country to Donald Trump. That will be an intentional choice. People like, I don't even think Roberts, I hope Gorsuch wouldn't. I'm not sure about Kavanaugh, but like Amy, Sotomayor, Kagan, okay, these people are not going to give it all away where they go, well, fuck, we realize that the case in front of us is really weak, so we're just going to have to make Trump a dictator. Fuck us. They're going to broaden their ruling way more. We saw it with the TikTok thing. It was literally the narrowest ruling possible. They literally called TikTok out in the fucking ruling. We saw it with Citizens United, where it was far broader than people thought it would be. So I'm not fully convinced that a judge might be scared that, oh, fuck, if I send through a weak thing, the justices are going to make Trump a dictator. That would be a choice by the Supreme Court. And if they're going to do it, they're going to do it anyway, I think. And also, we're going to get there accidentally regardless, where we're afraid to enforce any of these TROs. There are so many of these things brewing that some of which are like now a month in expiration of, and we still can't even say he's in violation of any of them, which I think is bad. But I don't know. I like all the parts of the system making the strongest statements they can. Yeah, go ahead.
I agree mostly with what you're saying. I think I would agree in just about every other case. But I would challenge you to find a case that could go to the Supreme Court that involves it's not even deportation, just the kidnapping and shipping out of legal residents with a zero due process. I don't know a case that's in the system right now that could put that question in front of the Supreme Court. I agree with what you're saying. They could find a way to get to it. But I mean, this is like, we are talking about one of the most powerful laws that now being brought back up. And then the Supreme, like, we haven't really had any case law on this since World War II, right? I mean, it's like, and now all of a sudden, boom, it's in there. And it's not like we have, Alien Enemy Act cases every year or so, and the Supreme Court's like, oh yeah, we never expand. We have no fucking idea, especially after the Dobbs decision, after seeing them whole cloth just make up criminal immunity. And I would also, I'll say this just to weaken my own position. I think that whenever I talk about the judge not wanting to send it up there, it is also in a somewhat selfish way that judge may not want to be the one to do it.
Sure.
It could be just that guy just goes like, fuck, I'm already getting death threats. And it's not just from one side. Yeah. Sorry, say again.
You meant in that sense. I thought you meant he didn't want to be the one to have the, like, legally he's pushing through it. You just mean from a personal perspective. Okay, sure.
Yeah. I mean, we're not supposed to think of judges as having a personal life of any kind, but death threats happen. Families are getting attacked. It's rough out there for them, and I can't imagine that has no effect on them.
I guess if you're issuing a TRO, you've already to some extent engaged in a little bit of legal analysis of the case. So, I mean, like, the idea that they would be brave enough to issue a TRO, but not brave enough to say, fuck it, send it along to the Supreme Court and let them decide. I don't know. It feels like I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying right now, but what you're saying right now is arguably the exact same argument that a lot of the Senate Republicans went along with when they didn't convict Trump of impeachment. When they, on completely bogus reasoning, were like, well, I mean, like, he's already out of office. Like, can you even convict him out of, like, doesn't matter. And I feel like everybody's been doing that, and then here we are.
Yeah, I think that was more. I think you're talking about something that's pretextual rather than maybe someone is not fulfilling the duty that they should do out of fear or apprehension. Like, I think that, I understand the comparison. I think that has a lot more to do with self-servants. But I mean, overall, I hear your position. I think it's a lot. Obviously, whenever you're being hyperbolic, you weren't giving this nuance of a one. I just want to come in here and talk to you about it and just let you know kind of this is what that judge is facing down as far as his options. And none of them are good. And I appreciate that you see that. I just kind of want to go over those.
I understand that. But then at that point, then we need to cut the pay in half of every single fucking federal employee, because part of this taking an oath to the Constitution, and you said you're an attorney, so you had a whole bunch of fucking ethics shit that you had to say that you would comply with. It can't just be oh, well, when it gets hard, maybe we don't do any of this. Well, what the fuck was the point of all the bullshit virtue signaling on all the ethics shit and the oaths and all that if, well, when time comes to actually, answer your call, I don't know, yeah.
I think that whenever you read a lot of law, and you said at some point, I believe, that you wanted to go to law school. I don't know where you're at with that, but if you ever end up reading a lot more law, okay, you'll see people just keep referring to these balance tests, and the ethics are not an overriding thing that makes the decision at the end of the day. Ethics are part of the balance, and that's what my ethics teacher told me. All right, this isn't some kind of this is an understood thing in the law. You have ethics, then you have interests. You have your client's interests, you have your interests, you have public interests, and those don't always line up. And I'm gonna be honest, I think that coming at it from the ethical angle, this ethics code angle, is I don't see a huge value in that argument.
Well,
I think it's just,
hold on. I agree with you if you want to talk about it being a balancing test, but whatever that test is, we are way over the threshold. It's not we're thinking it's. I think that what you're saying here might make more sense if it legitimately was 100 Trende, Aragua, whatever the fuck gang members that had all we'd seen on video that they'd murdered and raped children and women. And now as we go to deport them, there's a weird loophole. And it's actually they get to do catch and release until they get their court date. And now as a judge, you're gonna be fuck, are they likely to win? Maybe at that point, maybe we're at a test. But when gay singer dudes who have tattoos are getting sent to fucking labor camps, whatever ethics test you're saying that or whatever balance test we have here, I don't know what the fuck you're possibly balancing that's putting you on the side of fuck it, let's just let this stand for now. We'll see how it all plays out. Maybe they'll impeach him. Maybe something else will happen.
I hear you, but I feel like you're then entirely discounting that likely to this judge. The balance test is not ethics. These people do this process right. I got to weigh that. We're in the middle of a constitutional crisis. I don't know what the fucking flashpoint is. Last time we had a civil war, 500,000 Americans died. I don't want to do that. And that might be selfish of him, and it's right to call him out and say he's not living up to his duty. I'm not going to argue with you on that anymore. I'm just saying I think that's where a lot of that stuff is coming in. And really, I think that at this point, it's to me, I honestly feel like if people aren't already mad about it, the contempt stuff, things like that, I agree with you on the record, but I don't think that there's a massive value in that happening. I don't see a huge change coming from it, or even
sure,
a huge,
maybe. Okay, so I understand.
I
I understand what you're saying here. Do you ever play any poker?
I play a lot more craps and blackjack, but I am aware of poker.
Fuck you.
And
Okay.
I know some of the rules.
Sure. There's something to be said for if you're playing a game and you're constantly having to make really, really, really tough decisions, you're probably something is not going well with your strategy, okay? And it's not cool if you always have to make really tough decisions, but the person you're playing against never has to make a tough decision. And it happens in the Ukraine-Russia stuff. It's happening now with Trump. I keep hearing this we got to make really tough decisions, and if this is a really hard one to make, and this is really rough, and we're not sure what to do. But on the admin side, they don't have any of those issues because nobody's putting it to them. They haven't had to make any tough decisions. It's basically just them going full steam ahead, and then everybody else going ooh, this is a rough one. I'm not sure what to do. And then them going, okay, well, while you sit there and deliberate on that, I'm just going to keep implementing as hard as I can and as fast as I can. It's why not put it to them to make a tough decision ever?
Well, because and this kind of comes back to what we were first talking about. I don't think that we have an enforcement mechanism against the administration as the American people that can do that. I think that this is a tough decision. What they're doing, they have been making tough decisions if they were Democrats, because if they did this shit, they'd be roasted alive.
Yeah, but they're not Democrats.
I'm aware. That's why I'm making a comparison here real quick. And so, but what's happening now is they're saying, well, we're in a space where these aren't hard decisions for us. And there's no way for us to force that. Putting them in criminal contempt and civil contempt, that doesn't make a hard decision for them. I really appreciate whenever I look at the Perkins Coie, they are the law firm that got targeted first, and they didn't roll over, and they are fighting in the courts. And in the EO report that I put out this week, if you let me plug myself, I put a link to the page where they talk about the case and what they're doing in their statements. And unfortunately, I think that that's likely where a lot of the checking on this administration to come from is not in the courts in the sense of the judges standing up to the administration. I think it comes from people and the public standing up to them in a lot of ways. And so, I mean, I'll concede or whatever. Both
I concede more, anything. It's okay. But
better. I know, but you know what I'm saying. But whenever I'm looking at this, and everybody sits around and gets angry at these court cases, the anger, in my opinion, you can be angry at the judge for not doing his job, but the anger then needs to turn around and go to the Congress and say, you aren't holding up your end of the bargain. You aren't holding the executive accountable in any of their oversight committees. They're not holding them to accountable with impeachment, with passing laws to rein him in.
Yeah, but all these things are like, it's a Republican-run Congress right now. Like, of course they're not going to hold him accountable.
And what are you talking about? They're not holding town halls because people are showing up and screaming at them, right?
Yeah, but they don't have an obligation to do that. They don't have to hold a town hall. I do expect the judge to make a ruling on the law.
Sure, and I mean, yes, I agree with you there. But what I'm saying is that I think if you look at this, get angry about it, and then turn around and go, I'm going to try as hard as I can to change the legislature to try to fix this problem. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I understand.
If I look at this problem, I say the judge isn't doing his job.
They're independent for a reason. This is part of the structure of our government. It's an independent judiciary that ought to be able to issue these rulings independent of this other type of calculation of like, do we, don't we? Like, that's for the legislature to go. The legislature should be cucks. They should be actual cucks. But the judges, are there to rule on the law, I feel. And I feel like if this was a tough decision by conservative courts, if we were talking about abortion, they had no problem. Watershed decision, 60 years, gone instantly, right? They had no problem tossing affirmative action. Boom, gone, right? There was no political questions doctrine or any major decisions, whatever bullshit doctrines conservatives invent when they don't want to answer a question that they probably agree with. So again, it's always the hard decision on our end. And then when it's their end, it's like, oh, bye. Oh, not going to deal with that. Oh, you want to get rid of abortion? You need to talk to the legislature. You need a constitutional amendment. No, actually, we're just going to stare decisis. I don't know what the fuck that is. Gone, boom. I don't know. It just seems like so uneven. Even in the judiciary, like they're willing to make the tough decisions, I guess, when it comes to furthering their agenda. What the fuck? That's what it feels like to me, at least.
Well, I mean, I guess that's fine. And I appreciate the descriptive statements that you're making here to me. Like, I appreciate all that, right? But then when I take that and I go and I look at the system that we have and I look at the tools that are available to us, right? I don't know how to plug that in a way that doesn't make me go, well, we can go after the bar license of DOJ attorneys, or we can attack at the legislature, or there's the third option that I'm not going to say. When I say attack the legislature, I mean just attack their positions and elect different people. And then there's a third option that I'm not going to say on stream, and that's it. That's what we got. All right, and I'm fine with holding them accountable, but I'm not sure. Are you saying that there's some like this and I don't even know if him trying to enforce that TRO, right? I don't even know if that even it factors into any of the calculus of those things that we can do. So sorry that I didn't, make you feel better about all this stuff. I just, want to talk about it. I know you probably have other things to do, but in the future, if you ever want to talk about any of the executive orders specifically, I'm happy to do so.
Has there ever been a government that's been issued or that's issuing executive orders calling out individuals or individual law firms?
As far as I know, no. I'm not aware of it, but to be fair, I'm doing a lot of the modern executive orders. I also am a practicing attorney, and I'm playing hooky at work right now to do this. So I haven't looked back. Part of the article that I'm writing for the Pragmatic Papers this week is about this case and TROs and things like that. So I'll probably be looking into that. The one that people always love, this isn't about individuals or anything, but people always love to talk about Andrew Jackson, blah, 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 all that stuff. It's very different than what we're talking about right here. And I'll go over it there. But that has more to do with defying an order versus defying like a trial court, like mandated action procedurally. So whatever there. But no, it's super unhinged and fucking weird that they're doing it. Also, just as like a broad thing, people need to stop giving these. People need to stop, and by people I mean just like regular average people need to stop treating these executive orders as like real things. They are. If you actually look at the text of it, it's a paragraph and a half of just Trump word vomit about what he wants to do, and then it's him saying, "Hey, Secretary of whatever, can you make a report for me?"
Sure,
but
because technically
he talks about it as though it's.
Yeah, an executive order is not new law or anything. It's just basically the president saying, like, this is what I want my executive agencies to do. And I'm pretty sure every single executive order so far, they always included, like, the boilerplate text of as long as it doesn't conflict with whatever laws. Yeah. Now, obviously, they don't give a fuck about that, but sure.
Well, but you can form, like, an executive order can have more power than that. Like, there are agencies, right? Agency is a big word there, but there's, entities within the executive that were created whole cloth via executive order, and now Trump has gotten rid of a lot of those because he can get rid of them through executive order.
I'm not too sure about that. Wait, real quick, because when you talk about that, are you referring to like the EPA via Nixon or whatever?
No, I'm talking about like it's like
because the EPA was created, but that was actually created by Congress, right? He wrote an executive order wanting it, and then Congress basically did it afterwards. You can talk about stuff like DOJ or whatever, but there's a difference, I think, between the creation of limited offices that exist within the office of the executive versus like wholesale creating like the Department of Education or something like that, right?
There is a difference there, but I'm just saying you just now in the past you said like you've done the classic like it's just a press release from the White House.
Yeah,
I understand the sentiment behind that. Some executive orders are that. Most of Trump's have a ring of that to them, but there are a lot of them because they're then on the other side of it. There are the executive orders that are directly affecting tariff policy and going in and changing parts of tariff policy. So that's very clearly affecting the application of law. And so we can't say, on the one hand say, oh, it's nothing, and on the other hand, it's now
when I say it's nothing, what I mean is he can't create laws. Executive orders don't create new laws, is what I'm saying. Which I think a lot of people think they do, like an executive order, some novel. It's just making the executive will known, basically, in terms of how you want to direct a particular department. But even for when you talk about like the tariff thing, for instance, he's not citing the executive order. He's citing the emergency authorization stuff or the National Emergencies Act, right? That's why he's declaring the national. He still has to follow the policy of that law. The EO can't get around that. He can just make his will to do that known, right?
Well, sure. I guess a good way to put it is you're right. He's invoking a law and then applying his discretion via the EO. But I just mean like they can have real world policy effects that like let's say someone sued America for the tariff thing and they said, well, I couldn't pay 25%. And then they go, well, here's the executive order setting it at 25%. So like it could be cited in a court and used as a basis of an opinion, but it's not going to be, as you say, like he's just going to like make up, like, guess what? Every cop in the country can now do stop and frisk. I make it so with this executive order.
Sure.
Yeah, you're right. That's not something that he's going to be able to do.
I don't mean to downplay them or say that, because like DACA was a huge thing, but it didn't create a new law or anything. But yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Fine. That's fine. Okay. If it's okay with you, if you ever say some shit about the law that I don't agree with or something like that, if it's okay with you, I'd like to come back and talk some more, or
whenever you want. Yeah, just let me know.
Don't want to talk to me anymore.
Oh, or cool. I can give you a roll. Hold on. Wait, where are you at right now? Also, are you in the U.S.? Sorry, you don't have to say exactly. My bad.
I am in. Okay. Yes, I'm in the U.S.
Oh, okay. Just curious. Okay. Have fun. Be careful. Don't die.
Sure. Have a good one.
Wait.
What?
Okay. Do you agree with this? This is a strong feeling. Yes. There's a strong feeling I have. Do you agree with this? I feel like if we make it through this entire administration, because you said you weren't doomer pilled, okay, so you think we're going to make it through and everything will be okay. And I think that regardless of how stupid everything is, I'm still part of the nothing ever happens movement. So maybe there is a world where literally all of this goes back after, 2026 or whatever. He loses his mandate. 2028, new president. We all forget this. Do you think that an important part is holding people legally responsible for things that have happened? Or do you think all of that just needs to kind of be forgotten about and written off as a loss?
Well, like, when you say it that way, like, okay, we go back in time, or like let's say...
Like, do we resurrect the J6 case? Do we try to take politicians to jail for doing, actions that we feel are illegal or whatever?
We say that Trump used an auto pen, and so the James pictures.
No, not like auto pen bullshit, but like actual
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Or are you one of those just, live and learn and we'll forget it and move on and be okay? Or
no, that's stupid. My personal opinions about that stuff are pretty severe, and I think that there's literally I don't see I don't know a single time in which being generous or merciful in that way is ever really that beneficial. I just don't know what, like, if you're in power, if you have leverage over, this is just generally, if you have leverage over somebody and helping them does not help you and only helps them, why? Right?
Yeah, this is my biggest thing is like when you look at like the incentives for people acting, like if he goes away unpunished, like you would be stupid as a politician to not try something similar to this in the future. Like you have every incentive to do so. Why would you not? Like if there's no punishment for it.
You've shown that you are allowed to do it, right? Like when people say, traffic, like parking tickets are just like rich people fees because they can park wherever they want and pay the parking ticket. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, no, that's sure. Because what happened? You didn't do anything to disincentivize them from doing it, and you've actually made it easier for them to find a parking space that's open now. And if we just let these people go, they're like, oh, cool. Well, I did my first blush, right? I did my beer hall push, and they didn't shoot me. So let's give it a little time and get people a little angry, and now I'll come back and take over. And I think that this. As far as cucked as I was earlier talking about Bozeman, him not holding them to account is dumb in the sense, like, if we were in a system that it mattered, there'd be literally no reason for him to show them mercy, and he shouldn't. And if the Democrats come back into power and we get some Gerald Ford bullshit of like, we just need to move on, that person should be impeached, and we need to get a real person in there that's going to actually enforce the laws and hold people accountable for what they've done. Sorry if that was a little aggressive.
No, it's okay. All right.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, hopefully our country survives.
Before I go.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Before I go and before our country dies, shout out Pragmatic Papers. Everybody should go see the new edition, and everybody should bully Destiny into reading at least one of the articles. Thank you.
Wow, thanks. Love you. Be careful. These motherfuckers. All right, let me grab a Starlight and we'll watch this cabinet meeting. 1 sec.
address the issues in education now and start getting our scores up, where are we going to find our next generation after that? Where are our engineers, our doctors, our lawyers, our scientists, our AI and technical experts going to come from? We will go farther and farther down, and with everything else we're doing within our country, building manufacturing, bringing all of that back, if we don't educate in the best way we can, we will be lost, and those generations will be lost. It is, I think, the cornerstone of our culture and what we need to focus on. And so by having education at the best place where it can be, which is at the states, the local levels, with governors, with best practices and tools, which I hope the Department of Education can help supply for them, we'll do it.
And Linda, as you know, the SBA has taken over her student loans, which is a lot of loans. It's a big job. And Kelly, we appreciate that. You're going to do fantastically well. And Bobby is going to be...
SBA. Is that Small Business Administration? It's taking over student loans. Okay.
Taking over their various...
What are the chances that states being in charge of education actually improves it? 0% chance. The reason why there's a 0% chance is because nothing is changing. The states are already in charge of their education. This myth or rumor that the Department of Education somehow was dictating curriculum or anything to the states is not true. States have, the federal government had no control over K through 12 education, other than I think they maybe could do some federal testing, I think, but they can't dictate curriculum or anything like that, or DEI or what was it in schools that they hated? It wasn't DEI or ESG. It was another acronym. I don't remember. But they couldn't do any of that shit.
Medical aspects and health aspects of the educational process.
Oh, so, CRT, that was it.
And he's going to do a fantastic job of it, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just say that I'm very grateful to you and very grateful for the partnership with Doge, with Elon.
Why are you not streaming the video? Oh, sorry.
In my department and HHS. The expenditures, the budget of HHS during the Biden administration went up by 38%.
Then why is it a bad thing? Isn't this pretty much meaningless? All it's going to do is take away about 15%, or I think 14% of the funding to K through 12. For college, it might have a significant impact. I'm not sure. How is Common Core implemented? It's not. There is no such thing as like a Common Core curriculum that the federal government implemented. That's not true. It just never happened. It can't happen. There's not even a mechanism for it to happen.
The employees went up by 17% and healthcare went down. We have 40 comms departments. We have 40 procurement departments. We have 40 IT departments, and we have 40 procurement, HR, none of them talking to each other. We are, with Elon's help, eliminating the redundancies. We are streamlining our department. We're going to go back to providing gold standard science. We're going to get the money to the scientists and to the patients, rather than to the administrators and to the bureaucrats. And we're going to restore gold standard science, and we're going to make America healthy again.
Thank you very much. It's great. If you might, Madam Secretary, say a little bit about what's happening and how well we've done at the border.
Sir, this last week I was in Arizona, California, Alaska, and Florida, and CBP literally has almost 100% operational control of the border, which means that our country is secure and that we know who's coming into this country and that they love our country and they want to help keep it great into the future. We are in the month of March.
Common Core with state-to-state agreements? Sure, maybe. That's because states are in control of their education. If a state wants to implement something, they can do it. And some are even more local than that. It comes down to your like school superintendent and stuff like that, which I think might be city by city, depending on, but...
The last couple of weeks increased our deportations by 50%, so we're now not even just getting the worst of the...
What is up with this lighting? They all look like evil execs' destiny. That's because they've got a harsh overhead lighting and nothing on the ground to lighting them up. That's why.
Worst out. We're making sure that there's consequences for being here and committing crimes in our communities, and the numbers are continuing to escalate and to go up. Sir, this week I'm headed down to El Salvador. I'll be in the prison where we sent TDA members. I'll be meeting with the president
TDA
and also
members.
Colombia and Mexico and talking about building these relationships so that we can continue to get people out of this country that don't belong here and take them home. And also you had talked to me about sending the message worldwide about the fact that people shouldn't be coming to this country and they shouldn't be coming here illegally. So we are in several other countries around the world with a message.
Hey, people shouldn't be coming to this country and they shouldn't be coming here illegally. Wait, both or?
People out of this country that don't belong here and take them home. And also you had talked to me about sending the message worldwide about the fact that people shouldn't be coming to this country and they shouldn't be coming here illegally. So we are in several other countries around the world with a message right now that's saying, if you are thinking about coming to America illegally and coming here, don't do it. You are not welcome. We have a legal process to becoming a United States citizen, and there are consequences if you come here illegally, and America has changed because we're putting Americans first. So we've also, the Coast Guard has done phenomenal work. I don't know if you all have reported on it, but we have broken historic records in the amount of drug interdictions that they have brought in. We've repositioned the fleet to go after the fentanyl crisis and to go after the southern border and securing it, and they've done amazing work as far as that. We were down in Florida. They brought in $500 million worth of cocaine that they had done in 14 interdictions.
Party
and
time.
had brought them in, going right directly after the cartels and doing great work there. And we have a cutter that we have sped up the process, sir, the icebreaker, that'll be hitting the waters here this summer, and we've got 2 more that will be coming. But, Russia is using their cutters and icebreakers up in the Arctic to do surveillance on us, and we're going to reposition our fleet to continue to partner. I want to thank the Secretary of Defense and the Navy for...
We're going to be watching each other.
all of their help and partnerships. We do operations together because their obvious Navy warships are in certain regions, but our cutters are faster and can work together in a partnership that's securing America. So, and we're going to eliminate FEMA. So we've got a lot to do, but it's all good, and we're working hard, and we're going to make sure that we're continuing to do exactly what you promised.
That's a great job. Yesterday there was a plaza that you know well. There'd be hundreds of thousands of people standing at that plaza, pouring into our country, totally unchecked. Many people from jails and prisons and mental institutions and gang members, and horrible. And they just pour into our country.
How do we know if it's unchecked?
I was speaking to somebody who was checking on the border, and they said there was literally nobody in this massive plaza. You know, we're talking a plaza that would hold hundreds of thousands of people. There was literally nobody there. There was one person sweeping it, but there were no people. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing transformation very quickly. And we're getting the bad ones out first, and we're taking them out. And there's some really bad ones.
Thank
Murders.
you. Yes.
Murders of more than one.
For the same
people,
talking points over and over and over again. I love it. Yes.
It was terrible. But I want to just congratulate you and Tom Homan on the job you've done. You've been
Boston this weekend, hundreds of dangerous criminals were removed, 4 killers taken out of the country just by what they did in Boston this last few days.
Wow.
Yeah. And these are killers that there's no reasoning. It's not like, oh, let's talk them out of it. These are stone cold killers. They don't care. They don't even think about it. They kill somebody. They go to sleep. They wake up. They don't even remember they killed them. These are bad people that should have never been allowed into our country. Pam is doing such a fantastic job. I thought maybe you could say a few words.
Yeah,
Thank you, President. As far as we are hearing a lot about fraud, waste, and abuse. A lot of waste and abuse, but
few words.
Thank you, President. As far as we are hearing a lot about fraud, waste, and abuse.
Frog, waste, and abuse. Is that what she said? The frogs?
A lot of waste and abuse, but there is a tremendous amount of fraud. And Elon, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your team. You have uncovered so much fraud in our government, and we will prosecute you. We have an internal task force now working with every agency sitting here at this table. And if you've committed fraud, we're coming after you.
Damn.
Thank you, Elon, for that. On the violent crime level, thanks to President Trump's directive, we are seeking the death penalty again. So all of these horrible, violent criminals that you're hearing about around the country, they will face the death penalty federally within our country. And the drug dealers need to get out of here because we're coming after you. We're going to have 94 great U.S. attorneys around this country, and everyone will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, President. It's your directive.
I couldn't have said that better.
President.
That's very good. She's doing a fantastic job. Thanks, ma'am. Do you have any questions, please?
Mr. President?
Yeah, please.
Mr. President, what can states do now to implement your Department of Education's executive order?
Well, I think what's going to happen is we are cleaning out a lot of things like the loans, student loans, which will be handled very professionally by people that do that.
Okay.
And then, as you know, RFK Jr. is going to do a fantastic job having to do with health and the other things, and frankly, better than the people at the Department of Education. You see the buildings all over D.C. And then the rest is the states are going to start coming in and taking all of the information on all of their students. And I think a lot of that information is going to be shipped to different states like Iowa, like Indiana, like so many. They're so anxious to get, they're calling us, and they're so anxious to get it. We'll be shipping the records of the children that they're taking care of, that they want to take care of, and the process will begin. And I think it won't be that long before the states will be really running the Department of Education. Our teachers are going to be taken very well care of.
Wow.
And I said, personally, I don't care union, non-union, it doesn't matter. Teachers are so important to this country and to me. And we're going to take great care of our teachers. And I know it's very important to Linda.
If a bench warrant was issued on an executive branch official, would Trump be able to just pardon them? Could the DOJ instruct the U.S. Marshals to not just... Yeah, I mean, he could if it's a criminal thing. If it's a federal criminal thing, you could just pardon them. But at least you'd make him do it, I think.
So I think you're going to see a tremendous change very quickly having to do with education, and the process has already begun, very strongly begun. I think we've done, whatever it is, 8 weeks. People are amazed at how much we've done in terms of the safety of the country. In fact, I would like to ask maybe Marco to say a few words on what's happening with respect to, in particular, Russia, Ukraine, where we have some pretty good news. I think we want to get
What's the good news, President?
2,500 young people, and these are Russian and Ukrainian people largely. They're not American people, but on a human basis, we want to get it stopped, and we want to stop spending billions and billions of dollars to a country that we think it's time, and we're doing pretty well. Marco, do you want to say something?
Yeah, Mr. President, first of all, I think the American people should be proud that we have a president that's promoting peace and the end of conflict on the planet.
Thank you.
This is a war that's gone on for 3 years, as you pointed out, that as you rightly...
Do you think that President Trump has like a Stephen Miller or the lady, somebody, I keep forgetting her name, overview or go over like all of their speeches where I'm like, okay, you need to have one Trump compliment. Every time you're answering a question, you have to start off with the Trump compliment and then go into whatever it is you want to say. Jesus.
Pointed out would have never happened had you been president, but now it's here and it needs to be brought to an end.
Isn't that Signal app group chat 1,000 times worse than the Hillary emails, by the way? You'd think so, wouldn't you? We'll see how many conservatives talk about it.
No military solution to this war. It has to enter negotiation. And there's only one leader in the world that's capable of bringing two sides to a table. And that's our president, the president of the United States, President Trump. And that's what he's done. And so today, even as we speak, we have teams on the ground in Saudi Arabia meeting with the respective sides in the hopes of making progress towards this outcome that we all want to see. And I think that the country owes you a great debt of gratitude, and the world really, because you're the only leader in the planet that can bring the two sides together to bring an end to this conflict. And that's what you've done, and you've done it despite
you've done that
impediments from other countries and others who maybe have different opinions about how this should go. But ultimately, I think that the
He's
only
basically already fixed it. It's basically already over.
That, and we hope it'll bear fruit.
The world's just catching up.
Hopefully be one step more in that direction.
Thank you, Marco. And on the Middle East, another hotspot that we didn't have a problem with. There was no problem in the Middle East when we left, and now there's a lot of problems.
No problems in the Middle East, except the ongoing Syrian civil war, except the mass drone strikes in Yemen that his administration was trying to cover up, except Iran attacking Saudi Arabia, except for the border riots and the Great March of Return, and the Taliban still killing people in Afghanistan. But other than that, no, other than every single country, there were no issues in the Middle East. True.
Middle East, but we're working on that. But I think we've seen significant progress, and I think you'll have we're going to start. We were talking with the Vice President a little while ago, and you're going to see countries start to fill up the Abraham Accords. More and more countries want to join. That was a great success, tremendous success, and then Biden and his group did zero with it. That should have been filled up within a year of the election. Would have been filled up. So countries are starting to want to get involved with the Abraham Accords again. So that'll be great. JD, do you want to say something?
Yes, sir. Just on that topic, if you think about what happened with the Abraham Accords, one of the great diplomatic breakthroughs under the first Trump administration, really the last 30 or 40 years of American history in the Middle East. And the Biden
Holy shit. We've got intersectional memes. Check out Hillary's tweet. Eyes, you have got to be kidding me. Paste. Who do you think runs her account now?
administration did absolutely nothing with it. Built on it, not at all, added 0 additional countries. Purely out of political spite, the Biden administration, I think, hurt the United States and really hurt the project of world peace. That has changed. Luckily, about 2 months ago, we got a new president, and that president has given us the task of building out the Abraham Accords, adding new countries to it.
God.
And really what you see is a lot of these countries that have historical ethnic...
They wanted to join, but Biden was keeping them from doing it. But they wanted to, but Biden was keeping them from doing it.
Or religious hatreds want to build. They want to build new artificial intelligence. They want to build new real estate projects. They want their citizens to become rich and prosperous and peaceful, and they're setting to the side some of those old hatreds under the leadership of President Trump. So
this is actually true. It's not because of Trump, though. They're over it.
It's early, but we made a lot of progress, and we'll keep on making progress, sir.
Thank you, JD. One of the things that's very important, I think, to mention, I saw a show yesterday, and they had a Democrat congressman on. It was on Fox. And he said, well, President Trump said prices would be coming down, and instead he's focused on other things. Well, we all focused on a lot of other things, like peace, like all of these companies that are moving in and jobs. But what he didn't say is that prices have come down very substantially. And if you look at, when I came in, after 1 week, they were screaming at me about eggs. Eggs had nothing to do with me, but they were through the roof, and you couldn't get them. And now they're down about 35, 40%, maybe even more than that. I'm going to let Brooke, if you would just discuss that. And groceries generally. Prices are coming down, and energy prices are coming down. And I hope the Fed lowers interest rates, and then you're going to see interest rates coming down. And I'll have you speak about that in a second, Scott. Brooke, go ahead.
Well, sir, thank you. I think the first thing that's really remarkable to note is that the prices of eggs under the 4 years of Joe Biden increased 237%. 237% in those 4 years, and yet it wasn't covered in the press at all. No one talked about the price of eggs
Can we talk
in the summer of last year, for example.
One of the things that disappoints me is I feel like we haven't talked about Biden enough during this press conference. Can we hear some more about Biden, please?
From the media. So, of course, the president wins, and he is inaugurated, and the next day, everyone is yelping about why the price of eggs are so high. So it's certainly one of many, many issues we took on under the 4 years of Joe Biden. We had the cost of input go up 30% for all of our agriculture products. At the same time, the trade deficit increased $49 billion. So it was zero under the first Trump administration, and then under Joe Biden, we sold $49 billion.
The trade deficit increased by $49 billion. I don't know what she's talking about, but it was zero under Trump. What?
Increased $49 billion input, go up 30% for all of our agriculture products. At the same time, the trade deficit increased $49 billion.
The trade deficit.
So it was zero under the first Trump administration, and then under Joe Biden, we sold $49 billion less of our ag products around the world. Then you combine that with the avian bird flu. And I know I've talked to a lot of you in the press on this over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But listen, here's the deal. The president, under his vision and support, we released about a month ago a very significant plan on how to bring the price of eggs down. It included 5 prongs. I won't go into it now because I don't want to bore everyone. But since that day, since we released that plan regarding biosecurity, repopulation, importing eggs, research, and then deregulating, taking those onerous rules off of our farmers, our egg-laying farmers. Since that time, the price of eggs, the wholesale price of eggs, has come down 53%.
They lay the eggs themselves?
So, we're going to keep working on it. Listen, it's not something you solve overnight. Avian bird flu and some of the other animal diseases, we're working across the government, several partners out in the cabinet on that, especially my friend Secretary Kennedy over at HHS. But we have a long-term solution, but at least for now, in the short term, thanks to President Trump and so many that have worked so hard, the price of eggs are coming down, as well as the price of groceries. So thank you, sir, for the opportunity to lead on that.
Thank you,
and the number is 53%, and they're readily available. So I think it's a fantastic job. And
these are the numbers we believe, right? Not the government numbers we don't believe, right?
Consumers finally seeing some good news instead of year after year of prices going up because of grossly incompetent leadership. Scott, do you want to talk about interest rates, where you see it?
Sorry, hold on. YouTube does this text white on white background. Skillerass and their viewers just joined. Thank you for the host, my friend on YouTube.
Yes, sir. So we are under your direction. We're reprivatizing the economy. We're bringing down government spending. We're bringing down excess employment in the government sector. On the other side, we're going to re-leverage the banking system. We're going to have all the new manufacturing jobs. So everyone who's laid off from the government will have an opportunity to go into the private sector, and that is going to lead to disinflation. Inflation is under control. We're going to get the affordability crisis fixed. So lower energy, deregulation, more private sector jobs that will naturally get interest rates down. Mortgage rates are down almost every week since January 20th.
I think most paycheck to paycheck people are too distracted to think critically about politics. It doesn't help that politics itself is transcended into something that's half sports and half religion. Yeah, this is true. I'll keep reiterating this on stream. Most people just don't follow politics as much as people that follow politics do. Yeah, so sometimes you think the situation is a lot worse than it actually is. It's just a lot of people just don't have the time or the care. And it's a lot to like keep up on and everything.
The energy costs are down about 15%. Crude oil is down about 15%. And as we keep that going, interest rates are going to keep declining. It'll be good for mortgages. It'll be good for credit card debt. It'll be great for auto loans.
Thank you.
And you're doing a really, really good job.
That's amazing.
I'd like to see the Fed lower interest rates. That's just my opinion.
Please, Fed, save me.
Things are coming down. We have inflation under control. Tremendous amounts of money will be soon coming in from tariffs, which is about time that we were able to partake. We've been ripped off by every country on that basis, and it's about time. But that will be, I think, treated very fairly. Will be very fair. But the money that we're talking about is rather astronomical, and it should be, because we put years and years. I was able, in the first term, we had a great first term with the highest stock price increase ever, all the different things that we had. But one of the things, we took in a lot of money in tariffs, and I just started that process. And we had to slow it down because of the COVID. We didn't go forward. We did a very good job with COVID, but that was something that happened to the whole world. It was a shame.
Oh, yeah?
What a shame. All those people dead. Okay. And all of the problems that it caused for countries far worse. I mean, some countries still haven't recovered. Economically, they haven't recovered. But we took in hundreds of billions of dollars.
I like how he tries to take credit, like simultaneously for saying he handled COVID well, and then also take credit for, he just said the United States recovered well after COVID, right? You know, that's completely contradictory to his entire fucking platform, but not that anybody gives a fuck, actually. Which is kind of funny that he would say that.
Tariffs, just starting the process, but this is a program that's going to be, I think, unbelievable for our country, and I think it's treating other countries very fairly, very, very fairly. I'd like to ask, if I might, Sean Duffy to say a few words about the air traffic control situation. You know, there were some mishaps.
Oh yeah, what happened there?
Helicopter crashing into the plane. We have
some mishaps.
A system that's 40 years old. They spent tens of billions of dollars trying to patch it up and, you know, make it work, but it doesn't work. And my pilot says they use different systems. They don't want to use our system. It's so obsolete, and it's an obsolete, horrible thing that happened with respect to it. And we're going to. I said, day one, if this happens, if we are successful, we're going to have to get.
There's got to be some, like, I unfortunately, sometimes when I talk about tech stuff or software development, it's hard because I haven't seen any programmer humor memes on it, so I just have to make shit up in my brain. But there's got to be some fear of like a software developer team, and some manager comes in and he's like, wait a second, isn't the stuff you're using right now, isn't this really old? Shouldn't we make it newer? The idea that your FAA is using and your ATCDs, they're using like old software, why is it old? There's got to be like something niftier and newer and not obsolete, right? Especially when it comes to big like safety stuff, old doesn't have all the features sometimes that newer stuff has, but old is good because it's usually reliable and it works. And one thing you have to remember is your tolerance for, there's going to be better words for this, I just don't know, but like your fault tolerance or whatever for different applications is going to be wildly different. And when you're talking several orders of magnitude on your fault tolerances, then the types of applications you can use are going to be restricted. For example, Windows 11 might be a good operating system that only crashes on average. I'm making numbers up, but let's say you have a good domestic or a good consumer operating system. It crashes randomly 1 out of 1,000 days or something, right? To a normal consumer, that would be once every 3 years. That's totally fine. That's great. 1 out of 1,000 times, that's okay. But it might be that in another application, say like in a hospital or an air traffic control tower, every time you have a crash, like 100 people die. Well, in that case, your fault tolerance has to go from 1 out of 1,000 to like 1 out of 1,000,000 times or 1 out of 10 million times. And it might seem like trivial, like, okay, well, 1 out of 1,000,000, 1 out of 10 million versus 1 out of 1,000, like who cares? For a consumer, you don't care. But for like large scale applications where like lives are on the line or huge revenues on the line, these types of tolerances matter. And they oftentimes are much harder to get to that level, right? You have to do like having something that works or only breaks 1 out of 1,000 times might be engineered quite a bit differently than something that breaks 1 out of 1,000,000 or 1 out of 10 million times. Yeah, sorry, okay.
A brand new, modern, top of the line air traffic system. And I think I can say that I've been working a little bit with Sean on it, but Sean's been working hard on it. And with his new person at FDA, who's going to be terrific, by the way. And maybe you want to talk to them about that, because we need safety in the air, total safety in the air. And this will give that to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. We had a conversation on Friday. Again, our air traffic control system, as we talked about maybe privately, or I don't know publicly with all of you, but we have decades of ideas.
Or maybe private public on our signal chats. We accidentally invite journalists too.
And billions of dollars, and no progress is ever made on any of these initiatives. Air traffic control is the same thing. And so we're having a conversation about building a state-of-the-art, brand new, best technology, envy of the world, air traffic control system. And what's interesting from the DOGE team is they'll look and say, well, what is the problem? Why hasn't this been built? This is about safety. This is about people's lives.
Like, no offense, DOGE, but Elon Musk, how many rockets have crashed from Elon Musk? That's not the type of application that you would want on an air traffic control tower. Now, for his stuff, it's fine. Like, it's part of, I imagine, it's incorporated into the total cost of everything they do. But for consumer applications, or not consumer, I don't even know what you would, it's not a consumer thing. I don't know what you would call it, but for mass safety on public transit, or in a public application like an air traffic control tower, like that, those types of fault tolerances probably wouldn't be okay. I don't know why we would ever ask Elon about any of this shit. It's completely outside of his wheelhouse, but whatever.
All of you fly, your family flies. Why hasn't it been done? And the problem is in government, it takes way too long. So technology changes and money changes and administrations change. We have to do this fast, which is why we need the partnership from the Congress to give us the money up front. The best ideas and the best technology available in the world, we're going to build in the system. I think, Mr. President, we can do it in 3 years. I think Trump Tower was built in 3 or 3.5 years. I think we could match the Trump Tower time frame.
But
maybe not that good. But about
the thing too, again, to go back to this point, because it's not even so much that I dislike that people are looking at certain problems, it's that when you talk about the problems like a retard, you take away oxygen from good conversations about those. It does seem like the United States has I don't even want to say a bureaucracy problem, but some type of red tape problem when it comes to getting certain things done, where it is taking us too long. Like, I think public transit, for instance, is easier to do in Europe than in the United States, which is weird, because in the US, we think of ourselves as like free democracy and capitalism, and Europe is like the commie fucks. So how the fuck are they getting stuff like that done easier than us? It seems like that shouldn't be the case. But then rather than actually have any analysis on why are these systems so backed up, why does it take so long, what can we do to change it, it's just some arbitrary like, oh, well, it takes too long because I'm saying it's taking too long, even though I have no basis of comparison for anything, and we're just going to make it quicker, even though we don't know how we're going to make it quicker, just because LOL. And it's like, bro.
About 3 years, and again, we have to choreograph, because again, our towers are operational, keeping planes in the air. So we got to choreograph this, but we can do it in short order. If I can just make one other point, Mr. President, we're $36 trillion in debt. You've never had a Doge. We've never come in and looked at our government the way, Mr. President, you looked at this government and said, there's too many people, there's contracts, fraud, waste, and abuse. And so we've had a few bumps in the road as we've gone through this process, but if you look around this room, everybody has seen
See, like he's illustrating that point in real time. We have a few bumps in the road is totally acceptable when you're working for a startup or when you're doing some tech related stuff, or like a few bumps in the road are fine depending on the project that you're working on. But for larger applications, or if when a lot of money is at risk, or when safety and security are at risk, bumps in the road are not acceptable. And the defunding of USAID has already led to people dying. That's not acceptable to have those bumps in the roads. Do you know what the Friday evening deployment to that CrowdStrike, to the production branch or whatever, that was a bump in the road. That's not acceptable, okay? You can't push major mistakes like that through and just say it's a bump in the road when they're preventable. All of this is preventable if you just have people that know what they're doing, looking over things before they go in before they're implemented, you know?
The process has evolved, and everyone appreciates some of the insight and technical support that we've gotten to make this government more efficient, to make it more responsive to the American people. And so, again, when you have a new system like this, you'll get some bumps. But things are rolling out. The last 3 weeks have been much, much better as our teams have integrated and we're working to deliver for the American people. And I would say some of the press had made comments last time about what happened in the last meeting.
we had a great conversation in the last meeting. Elon and I had a great call after the meeting, and so sometimes the reporting can be a little bit off. I love the analysis that you guys do when you're not in the room. But I would just note that we're working well together, Mr. President, and the whole team here is working well together.
Well, actually, we decided to see you after the cabinet meeting instead of before, and I think that's nice. But if you think about it, I guess never in history has anybody invited you to a cabinet meeting. We're very open and transparent, and we had a very good meeting today. So, I mean, you're standing here, you're seeing what the result.
Look up the federal employees as a percentage of the workforce over time. I imagine it's gone down, right? Because the number of federal employees as an absolute number has just been about steady, I think, for 40 or 50 years, right?
The meaning is, I think we're doing an amazing job for essentially 8 weeks on the job. I think it's there's never been anything like it. Did you have a question, please?
Two, actually, if you don't mind. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. One, actually, follow up on the Attorney General's comments, and then one for you. You said that you're now preparing to prosecute examples of fraud across federal agencies that have been referred to you. Is that what you said?
We are working with a team. We have a team of attorneys in place, working with Elon's incredible team, helping us, taking referrals from the cabinet members. You know, these are your tax dollars. And a lot of it is just abuse. A lot of it's waste. But if it's fraud, we are investigating it, and we are looking at multiple cases of fraud throughout the federal government.
Name one. Name one.
Greenland is confused
about
the Second Lady and the National Security Advisor visiting this week. They're concerned that this is further provocation, whatever it is you ultimately want for Greenland. Could you further explain why they're going? What is the ultimate end goal when it comes to
well, not provocation. This is friendliness, not provocation. We're dealing with a lot of people from Greenland that would like to see something happen with respect to their being properly protected and properly taken care of. They're calling us, we're not calling them. And we were invited over there, and I thought it would be I have great respect for the wife of our of our great vice president. I think she's she's a brilliant woman. She's a very nice woman, and she loves the concept of Greenland. And so she's going there, and I think Marco's going there, and some others are going there. But we've been invited, and they really like the idea because they have been somewhat abandoned.
Wait, real quick. Okay, so in Factorio, you get these things like steam engines or boilers or burner mining drills that you don't need anymore. Do you just put them in a box and blow the box up? Is that really all you're supposed to do? There's no other way to like recycle these things still?
As you know, they haven't been taken good care of. And I think Greenland's going to be something that maybe is in our future. I think it's important. It's important from the standpoint of international security. And if you look at the ships outside of Greenland, you have Russia, you have China, you have lots of different people and lots of different places. And
you got a recycler later.
It cannot go on the way it is. It's not going to go on the way it is. I'll make a statement. It's not going to happen. So they're going there, and that's purely friendship.
Who's doing the invite?
A lot of people, yeah. People from Greenland are asking us to go. We have many requests from many people. Some officials do.
Who?
Yes, please.
Who? Economic forecast. I saw one economic forecast coming out from the OECD this past week. They are forecasting stagflation for the United States, a downtick in terms of GDP growth. Do you agree with that forecast? What do you see over the course of 2025?
Well, we inherited a very bad and perilous situation from a group of people. Again, we just got here from a group, and this takes a long time to develop, from a group of people that truly didn't know what they were doing. And you see that with not only costs, you see that with all of these fake contracts that have been given out. So we inherited a bad situation, but I think we're going to have an economy that booms. I think when it all kicks in, it's not going to take very long because some of these people that announce that they're going to spend billions of dollars. I mean, literally, Apple is spending $500 billion.
Literally, $500 billion.
They're building plants here instead of China.
Do you know that, guys?
When it all happens, and it's going to happen very soon, these are people that are already...
Also, wait, the steel plate productivity. Does this mean my ovens that are cooking steel, are they automatically just going to be making more steel? Is that what this means?
Many cases are already starting. They just announced. In some cases, they announced.
Yes. Okay.
But they actually started before the announcement, as you know, because some are already building. This is going to kick in. I think it's going to be amazing. So they're looking at, based on numbers that I was looking at 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I was very concerned about the economy.
But now
we're going to have something that's like nobody's ever seen before. We have numbers, and we have job generation that I don't think we've ever seen before. See how it works out, but I think the economy is going to go through the roof.
Mr. President,
yeah, please.
Ukraine, in an interview with Time Magazine published this morning, President Zelensky said he believes that some members of your team had been influenced by Russian information. Those were his words. What do you have to say to that?
Well, probably they have been influenced to get this thing settled because Ukraine wants to see it settled. I think they have to have it settled, and Russia wants to see it settled. And I think if I weren't president, this would never happen. Marco's doing a great job, and Steve Witkoff has been incredible. Michael Waltz. We have a great group.
Burner mining drills are an ingredient to electric mining drills. What? No, they're not.
People working on it, and it takes a good part of their day settling something that really, it affects us monetarily because we've given so much money, and we're getting that done. In fact, Scott is telling me that the agreement on rare earths is just about completed. They'll sign
rare
it shortly.
earths.
So it's, as you know, Europe is in for a very small fraction of what we're in for. It affects them much more than it affects us. Again, they are in as a loan, which nobody knew until I came along. Europe is giving the money to Ukraine as a loan. We were just pouring money.
Nobody knew
Ukraine.
that.
It's a very unfair situation. So we made a deal on rare earths. But most importantly, we want to stop the killing that's going on. 2,500 on average
Young
mostly
men.
soldiers a week of being
Mostly
killed.
young men.
And they're Russian and they're Ukrainian, and if we can stop it, that's a very important
the same
thing to
talking
me,
points.
on a human
Yes.
basis.
Yes.
Hey, anybody else?
Are you signing the rare earth deal today? Is that what you mean?
No, we'll be signing it soon.
So
It'll be signed very soon.
Can I ask another question on Ukraine?
Yeah.
You recently mentioned the fate of all the Ukrainian children abducted and transported to Russia. So
What?
are you demanding that Russia
What? Ukrainian children abducted? Cut her off. Get the. Who are you? Who are you with?
Well, it's one of the things that we're talking about. I know that no decision's been made.
We're talking about it.
We're talking
figuring
about
it out.
territory right now. We're talking about lines of demarcation. We're talking about power plant ownership. Some people are saying the United States should own the power plant. And
Are they? Some
work it
people?
that way because we have the expertise to fix it up, et cetera, et cetera. It's okay. That would something like that would be fine with me. But they are talking about ownership of the big nuclear power plant in particular. But all of these things will come up, and they have come up, and that has been discussed. Yes. Okay. I want to thank everybody very much.
Wow.
This
Thanks.
was a great meeting. These are phenomenal people. We're lucky to have. I have to tell you, I want to thank you all, and Elon, I want to thank you. I know you've been through a lot with this horrible situation that happens.
Saving America.
It's very unfair. What he is a patriot. Here's a man that I can tell you, he's a friend of mine. He's become a friend of mine. He supported me in the election. That's when I got to know him. Really, I knew him a little bit from the first term, but not much. But he's a patriot more than anything else. He's never think of it. He has never asked me for a thing. He could have. I always say, I wonder if he's ever going to ask me for something.
Yeah,
and it's always subject to change. And if it does change, I'll let you know about it. But Elon has never asked me for a thing. I mean, I got rid of the electric car mandate.
Car commercial.
I have no idea how that affects him, but possibly not good. I don't know. But he's never asked me for a thing. And I think that's an amazing tribute. I did get activated last week when I saw what they were doing. I said, he makes an incredible product, and we're going to go out and tell people you can't do that stuff and support him. They got to support him. Because if he wasn't doing this, he wouldn't have any of these difficulties. And I think it's getting less and less. Pam has done a great job with regard to all of the, I know the kind of investigations that are going on. If she finds them, which she will, she's already found 4 of them. But I think they're going to suffer very grave consequences because they're really terrorists when you think about it.
They're terrorists.
They're terrorists at a high level.
True.
And I think the people that are financing them, they could very well be people I know, people that you read about. But those people are in big trouble. So they better cut it out. But Elon's a patriot. We want to thank you very much for the job you're doing. Thank you very much.
Apparently Trump made a statement on this.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in the Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides
I wasn't there.
had been discussing very
I don't know shit about that.
Through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business.
Based.
I think it's not much of a
Blame
magazine,
the Atlantic.
but I know nothing about it. You're
True.
saying that they had what?
They had what? Oh shit! I was gonna say people that I debate are gonna use this as an excuse. I didn't think the president himself could. Oh, even the president, I don't know shit about. I didn't hear about that.
Much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate.
Jesse Single? What do you mean?
Having to do with what?
What?
Having to do with what?
What
were
are
they
you talking about?
The Houthis.
Houthis?
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it.
You're telling me for this for the first time. No. He did the meme. He's got to be a memer. He's got to be a memer. He's got to be a memer, right?